I'm gonna love you.
Hey guys, welcome back to Dan's Chess Lounge. I'm Dan, and today I'm going to continue with our lecture on traps and zaps for the French defense. As you guys know, the French defense is my favorite opening. It's my pet opening that I like to play against e4. I like it because it's so solid, and there's some bite in it as well. It's a counter-attacker's opening. So I like to play that opening there when I'm playing against strong players who try to overextend. Then they can get bit. So yeah, the French defense is what it's all about for me. I've been looking at that opening probably for a year and a half now, just trying to learn everything that I can about it. And recently I cracked open a book that I had. It's called Traps and Zaps, Part 2 by Bruce Pandolfini. And they have a whole section on the French defense in there of opening traps. So let's go ahead and dive in and see what we have for today. First one we have here is a, looks like a pin. Let me go ahead and bring it up. E4, E6, F4, D5, E5, Bishop E7. Okay, standard stuff right here. Nothing too crazy so far. Up, Queen G4. Okay, so white is breaking an opening principle here right away by moving their queen so early in the game. They haven't developed any of their major or minor pieces yet. They've actually exposed the weak diagonal right here. I went in the last lecture, I talked about playing F5 early, and then white went ahead and played F4 early in this game. I mean, you can do that. It's just you have to be very careful and make sure that your opponent can exploit that diagonal, because that's a very weak diagonal there. G6, D4, securing the center. Knight H6 hits the queen. Queen goes back to F3. Knight jumps in to Knight F5. Queen goes back to F2. B6, G4. Okay. Right here, pause the video if you don't see the crushing move here. I'm going to go ahead and play it now. It's Bishop to H4, and it's just kind of ironic that I was just talking about that diagonal there being weak, and your opponent being able to exploit that diagonal there. Usually, if you play F4, or if you're black and play F5, you need to follow that up with your knight coming to F3, or if you're black, your knight coming to F6. That way that keeps bishops or the queen off of that diagonal there, because I've lost games that way when I was trying out different openings, because a lot of your attacking gambit lines often call for you to play F4 or F5, and so in the past I've fallen victim to that. So that's why whenever someone plays F4 or F5 against me, I'm always ready to exploit that diagonal, and it looks like white fell for it. Alright, let's go on to the next one. Let's see here. E4, E6, Knight F3, D5. Alright. Pawn push. So it's like a advanced variation, sort of. C5. Black is establishing a good, strong center here. Oh, got the wing gambit. White played B4, trying to pick off a center pawn for black with one of their side pawns. Black accepts. White plays d4, locking up their center. Knight c6. Okay, and then white plays a3. It kind of reminds me of almost like a Benko Gambit type of a position, like in reverse, though. White wants black to take the pawn, and then white is going to have the semi-open A file and B file to put pressure on black's queenside pawns. But black plays queen A5. Okay, exploiting this pin and diagonal here. White plays bishop d3. Knight g e7. I guess white is not that worried about that weak diagonal there. He plays knight b to d2. Black wants to exploit that. Plays b3. And white plays b3 here. C takes b3, which is a blunder, because now black can play queen to c3, and it's actually a double attack on the rook, and it's attacking the bishop as well. Yeah, see, so in this position right here, white was okay until the very, very end. He should have castled. He violated opening principles by not castling his king quick enough, and he started to mix it up and do some battle without making sure that his king was safe. And now his knight is pinned and he can't get out of the way to protect his bishop. The queen can't get to the bishop, and the rook's also under attack. So in this one here, it's just white was doing fine. He just needed to castle sooner. Let's go on to the next one. e4, e6, d4, b6. This is a typical transposition move order. Sometimes black doesn't play d5 right away. They want to do something with their French bishop, their light square bishop. They put it on b7, or try to swap it off real fast by playing it to a6. Queen moves to f3. That's a violation of an opening principle that I noticed right away. Move the queen very, very early in this game. Knight c6, d5, knight d4, hitting the queen, and it was also attacking c2, which would fork the king and the rook. So the queen moves to c3, protecting it, but the queen just moved right into trouble. You guys see it? Bishop b4 pins the queen to the rook. Pins the queen to the king. The queen has to take, but then falls to the fork on c2. All right. So in this position right here, this game here, white moved his queen way too early, and white also moved his queen to the spots where the knights should go. Always try to move your pieces and put them on the most active squares that they belong on. So white's queen never belonged on f3, but what it was, white was going for a cheap bowl. Let's go back here and look. When black played b6, he opened up that diagonal here to his rook. And then so white tried to take advantage of that by playing queen to f3, with the idea of pushing the pawn on e4 to e5 and then attacking the rook. So white was playing for a cheapo, and it kind of backfired. And then on top of that, when white had to cover the c2 square, he also moved his queen to the best place for his queen's knight. So the queen's knight belongs on c3. So yeah, so when you're developing in the beginning of the game, try to move your pieces to their most active squares, where they do the most damage and where they are the most beneficial. Obviously, moving the queen around so much is not advised. Okay, let's go on to the final game here. e4, e6, d4, knight f6, bishop g5. This is not really it's a French. It kind of has the French structure, but it's more like a Trompowsky, where the bishop comes out right away and attacks the knight. Bishop e7, bishop d3, castle, knight c3. Oh, so now you have knight takes e4. So we're getting ready to have some down and dirty tactics going on here. Bishop takes bishop, knight takes knight. Okay, so that was actually a blunder, because I think black is counting on white just trading bishop takes queen, and then knight takes queen, and then bishop takes c7, and then knight takes b2, and then everybody comes out, and when the dust settles, black would be a pawn. But black forgot about an intermezzo here. Everyone see it? It's bishop takes h7, check. Queen takes, queen h5, check. And then now white just takes the queen, and the game is pretty much over at this point. Even if you go back, even if once white checks here, if black doesn't take, if he moves over like that, the queen still comes in, and white is actually threatening checkmate once the bishop leaves, and then the bishop, the dark square bishop, is still hitting the queen here, so it's still a double attack. One is attacking the queen, and the other is threatening checkmate. So yeah, in this example here, it's just always be alert and on the lookout for intermezzos when you're in the midst of a combination. So, because there can always be in between moves that you might not see at first. So, all right, I'll wrap this one up here. Thanks again for watching. We're going to keep banging out more videos on traps and zaps and French defense. And till next time, see you guys.